8 Japanese officers raised their hands and shouted in triumph. The attack on Pearl Harbor had been a huge success, but just a second later, a shocking message came through the radio. Originally, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto had planned to declare war on the U.S. 30 minutes before the attack. But due to delays in translating the message at the Japanese embassy in Washington, the declaration of war wasn't delivered to U.S. Secretary of State Hull until 1 hour after the bombing began. The one thing Yamamoto feared most, launching a surprise attack without a formal declaration, had come true. At that moment, he realized Japan had stepped onto a path of no return. The day after Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt formally declared war on Japan, marking the start of the Pacific War. On April 18, 1942, as revenge for the attack, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colum Doolittle led dozens of B-29 bombers in a surprise air raid on Tokyo, killing over 80,000 people. When Yamamoto found out Tokyo had been bombed, he was furious. Worried that the U.S. would bring the war to Japan's doorstep, he ordered the Navy to push the Pacific front line eastward and tighten Tokyo's defenses. Since there had never been a case of bombers taking off from aircraft carriers, the Japanese wrongly assumed that the bombers had launched from Midway. So taking over Midway and protecting the Emperor became their top priority. On June 4, 1942, Admiral Nagumo led the Japanese Navy's combined fleet, 4 aircraft carriers and 25 other warships, to attack Midway. But what they didn't know was that the U.S. had already cracked their naval codes. The Americans knew Japan's entire plan and had set a trap near Midway. The next day, Japanese forces launched an airstrike on Midway, but the U.S. was ready and the surprise attack failed. Just as Nagumo was preparing a second wave of attacks, a scout plane urgently reported that a U.S. aircraft carrier had been spotted 230 nautical miles from Midway. This left Nagumo in a tough spot. If he continued the assault on Midway, the bombers would need to be rearmed. But if the U.S. carrier attacked first, the entire Japanese fleet could be wiped out. In that critical moment, after a brief pause, Nagumo chose the safest option. He called off the attack, cleared the flight deck, ordered the fighters to land, and began swapping the bombs for torpedoes. But what he didn't realize was that this very decision would lead Japan's Navy straight to disaster. Just as the second wave of planes was about to take off, U.S. bombers suddenly showed up and launched a surprise attack.